He thought the blind date was finally his shot at love, until the gorgeous woman stood up, laughed in his face, and announced to the entire fancy restaurant, "I don't date losers who smell like motor oil." Everyone stared. Everyone laughed. But in that exact moment of crushing humiliation, a little 6-year-old boy walked up, tugged on his sleeve, and said the 5 words that would change his life forever. In the gritty underbelly of the city, where exhaust fumes mingle with the scent of oil and metal, Jake Harlan wipes his grease-stained hands on a rag, surveying the modest garage that is his world. At 28, Jake is a man forged by hardship, orphaned young. He dropped out of high school to care for his ailing grandmother in their cramped apartment above Harlan's repairs. The shop is tucked away in a forgotten industrial district, a haven for beat-up sedans and rusty trucks belonging to loyal blue-collar clients who appreciate his honest work. Tall and rugged, with tousled dark hair and piercing blue eyes that hide a quiet vulnerability, Jake dreams not of grandeur, but of simple stability. He pours his heart into every repair, often staying late under the hum of fluorescent lights, tinkering with engines that seem to echo his own resilient spirit. Friends are scarce for Jake these days. The few he has from his wilder youth have climbed the social ladders, becoming distant elites who occasionally drop by in their sleek sports cars, feigning nostalgia. Their visits always carry an undercurrent of condescension, a reminder of the worlds that separate them. One fateful afternoon, those so-called friends, a trio of privileged heirs led by the smug Max, saunter into the shop, their engines purring like predators on the prowl. "Hey, grease monkey," Max smirks, slapping Jake on the back with a familiarity that feels forced. "We've got a surprise for you. Blind date tonight at La Belle Époque. She's a knockout, trust us." Jake, ever the optimist, raises an eyebrow but smiles. "A date? At a fancy place like that? You sure she's not out of my league?" Max chuckles, exchanging glances with his buddies. "Nah, man. You'll charm her socks off. Just scrub up and show up at 8. Little does Jake know, it's all a cruel setup. Max has paid a stunning actress named Elena to humiliate him publicly, a prank born from boredom and entitlement. As the sun dips low, Jake heads home, scrubs the grime from his skin, and dons his best shirt, an ill-fitting button-up that's seen better days. He arrives at the upscale restaurant amid crystal chandeliers and whispered deals, his heart pounding with a mix of nerves and hope for a genuine connection. Elena arrives fashionably late, her eyes scanning Jake's modest attire with disdain. She slides into the seat across from him, her voice laced with mockery. "You? A mechanic? This must be a joke," she sneers loudly, drawing stares from nearby tables. "I date winners, not losers who smell like motor oil." Laughter ripples through the room as she storms out, leaving Jake crushed at the table, his cheeks burning with shame. He retreats to the bar, nursing a glass of water, the weight of humiliation pressing down on him like a faulty engine. Just then, fate weaves its unexpected thread. Enter Victoria Whitmore, the 32-year-old CEO of Whitmore Enterprises, a billion-dollar tech empire that dominates the skyline. Dressed in a tailored power suit, her auburn hair cascading in elegant waves, Victoria exudes confidence and poise. Widowed young after a tragic accident, she balances boardrooms with motherhood, her life a whirlwind of decisions and deadlines. Trailing behind her is little Matteo, her 6-year-old son, wide-eyed and clutching a toy car, his face smudged from soccer practice. They've stopped for a quick dinner, seeking a quiet corner booth away from the prying eyes of high society. As Victoria scans the menu, her mind still buzzing from a day of mergers and innovations, Matteo wanders off, his curious gaze drawn to Jake's slumped figure at the bar. The boy tugs at Jake's sleeve, holding up his broken toy car. Mister, you look sad, Mateo says innocently, his voice pure and unfiltered. Wanna fix my car? It's broken. Jake, forcing a smile through his pain, kneels down to the boy's level. He pretends to inspect the toy, twisting an imaginary wrench. Well, let's see here. Looks like the engine's a bit loose. Hand me that tool over there. Oh wait, we'll improvise. He makes a few playful adjustments, and the toy roars back to life in their imagination. Mateo giggles, his eyes lighting up. You're good at fixing. I like him, Mommy. He's nice. Victoria glances over from the booth, her emerald eyes meeting Jake's for the first time. In that moment, amid the ruins of a prank, something sparks, a genuine warmth that cuts through the evening's chill, hinting at worlds about to collide. The days following that humiliating evening pass in a blur for Jake, yet one image lingers in his mind like sunlight breaking through storm clouds, the little boy's bright smile and the brief, curious glance from his elegant mother. Jake tells himself it was nothing, just a kind moment in a cruel night, and returns to the rhythm of his garage, clanging tools, the hiss of air compressors, and the quiet satisfaction of a job well done. But fate, it seems, has other plans. A week later, on a rain-soaked afternoon, a sleek black luxury SUV limps into Harlan's repairs, its hazard lights blinking weakly. The driver's side window lowers to reveal Victoria Whitmore, her usually impeccable hair slightly damp, worry creasing her brow. Beside her in the back seat sits Mateo, waving enthusiastically the moment he spots Jake emerging from the bay. It just died on me 2 blocks away, Victoria explains, stepping out in heels that click against the wet concrete. The dealership said they couldn't fit me in for days. Your shop had the best reviews for honesty, so, here we are. Jake wipes his hands on a rag and offers a small, genuine smile, the first real one in days. Let's take a look. Shouldn't be too complicated. While he works under the hood, Mateo slips out of the car and stands on tiptoes to watch, fascinated. You're really good at this, mister. Do you fix everything? Jake chuckles softly. I try, buddy. Engines are like puzzles, every piece has to fit just right. Victoria watches from the doorway, arms crossed, but her guarded expression softens as she sees her son's delight. When Jake finishes, replacing a faulty alternator belt in record time and refusing to overcharge, she tries to hand him her black credit card. No need for that, Jake says quietly. It was a simple fix. Just glad you're safe. Victoria hesitates, surprised by the refusal. At least let me pay for parts. He shakes his head. Consider it a thank you for your son brightening up a rough night last week. Her emerald eyes flicker with recognition, then warmth. You remembered us. How could I forget? Jake replies, glancing at Mateo, who is now helping by handing him imaginary tools. This little mechanic in training made my whole evening. From that day forward, the chance encounters multiply, as if the universe itself is gently nudging them together. One Saturday morning, Jake is volunteering at a community center, teaching basic car maintenance to underprivileged teens, something he's done quietly for years. He looks up from under a donated sedan to find Mateo tugging Victoria inside the workshop, pointing excitedly. Look, Mommy. It's the fixing man. Victoria explains that Mateo insisted on coming after seeing a flyer. He wouldn't stop talking about you, she admits, a faint blush coloring her cheeks. I hope we're not intruding. Jake wipes his forehead with the back of his wrist and smiles. Never an intrusion. Want to help us change some spark plugs, Mateo? The boy's face lights up like Christmas morning. For the next 2 hours, Jake patiently guides small hands through safe tasks, explaining everything in simple, kind words. Victoria sits on a nearby bench, watching her son laugh and learn under Jake's gentle instruction. For the first time in years, she feels the weight of her lonely world lighten, just a little. Later, as they share juice boxes with the teens, Victoria opens up more than she intended. Mateo's father, he passed away when Mateo was only 2, she says quietly, eyes on her son. It's been boardrooms and nannies and endless expectations ever since. People see the CEO, the fortune, the name, but they rarely see me. Or him. Jake listens without judgment, his blue eyes steady. Sounds exhausting. You're doing an incredible job with him, though. He's got the biggest heart. She looks at him then, really looks, and feels something she hasn't allowed herself in years, the quiet comfort of being truly seen. Another evening, after a long day, Victoria's car won't start outside Mateo's preschool. Instead of calling her driver, she finds herself dialing the number on the business card Jake slipped into her hand weeks ago. Within 20 minutes, he arrives, not in a tow truck, but on foot, toolbox in hand, raincoat over his work clothes. He fixes a loose battery terminal in minutes, then notices Mateo shivering on the curb. "Here," Jake says, shrugging off his raincoat and draping it over the boy's small shoulders. "Can't have my favorite assistant catching a cold." Mateo beams up at him. "You're the best, Jake." Victoria watches the exchange, her heart tightening in a way that both terrifies and thrills her. As they stand under the awning waiting for the rain to ease, she speaks softly. "You don't have to keep rescuing us, you know." Jake meets her gaze, raindrops glistening on his dark hair. "It's not about rescuing. It's about wanting to be there. For both of you." For a moment, the world narrows to just the 3 of them under the shelter, the patter of rain a gentle backdrop to something new and fragile blooming between them. And in Mateo's delighted laughter as Jake makes the toy car in his pocket race across the sidewalk, Victoria feels, for the first time in years, the stirrings of hope. Word travels fast in the circles where money and status reign. Whispers begin to circulate through high society lunches and private club lounges. Victoria Whitmore, the untouchable CEO, has been seen more than once in the company of a simple mechanic from the wrong side of the city. Grainy photos from the community center workshop surface on social media, Jake kneeling beside Mateo, both of them laughing over a greasy engine part, Victoria watching with a smile no one has seen on her face in years. The original pranksters, led by Max, catch wind of the rumors and can't resist stirring the pot. At an exclusive rooftop party one evening, Max corners Victoria with a smug grin, champagne flute in hand. "Victoria, darling," he drawls loudly enough for nearby guests to hear. "I hear you've been spending time with my old buddy Jake. You know, the blind date I set up as a joke. The one where I paid that actress to humiliate him. Classic, right? Who knew the grease monkey would actually catch someone like you on the rebound?" The crowd titters behind manicured hands. Victoria's expression hardens, but before she can respond, Jake's name is already trending in their elite group chats, memes of oil-stained hands holding crystal glasses, cruel captions about climbing social ladders with a wrench. Jake hears about it the next day when one of his old friends drops by the garage, pretending concern. "Tough break, man. Everyone's talking about how you got played first, then somehow tricked the Whitmore heiress. Better watch out, her family won't like it." Jake listens in silence, wiping down a toolbox. He feels the sting, but anger isn't his way. Instead, he simply nods. "Thanks for the heads up. But I'm not tricking anyone. What happens next is up to her. That same afternoon, a gleaming town car pulls up outside Harlan's repairs. Out steps Reginald Whitmore, Victoria's father, the formidable founder of Whitmore Enterprises, silver-haired and sharp-eyed, dressed in a bespoke suit that costs more than Jake's annual revenue. He strides into the garage like he owns the concrete beneath his polished shoes. "You're Jake Harlan," Reginald states more than asks, his voice carrying the weight of boardroom authority. Jake straightens, meeting the older man's gaze steadily. "Yes, sir. That's me." Reginald doesn't waste words. "My daughter is impressionable after her loss. She's confusing gratitude with something deeper. You're a decent man, I'm sure, but you don't belong in her world. Walk away now, with dignity, and no one gets hurt. Stay, and I'll make sure your little shop here struggles to stay open. Permits, inspections, suppliers, things can get complicated quickly." Jake's jaw tightens, but his voice remains calm and respectful. "Mr. Whitmore, I respect what you've built and how much you love your daughter. I'd never want to cause her pain. But I care about Victoria, and Mateo, because of who they are, not what they have. If she asks me to step back, I will. Until then, I won't hide or run because someone thinks I'm not good enough." Reginald studies him for a long moment, eyes narrowing. He expects defiance laced with bitterness, instead, he sees quiet strength. Still, he turns on his heel without another word and leaves. That evening, Victoria arrives at the garage unannounced, her face pale with fury and guilt. She's heard everything, Max's confession, her father's visit. Tears threaten as she faces Jake under the flickering shop lights. "I am so sorry," she says, voice breaking. "The prank, the gossip, my father's threats, none of this is fair to you. You don't deserve any of it." Jake steps closer, gently brushing a stray tear from her cheek. "Hey. I'm still here, aren't I? A little gossip and a stern talking to won't scare me off. I've handled worse engines than this." She laughs through her tears, the sound fragile but real. "You're too good, Jake. Too good for all of this mess." He shakes his head. "I'm just me. And I'm falling for you, Victoria. For the woman who works 16-hour days but still makes time to cheer at soccer games. For the mom who lets her son get dirty learning something new. If your world doesn't want me in it, that's their loss. But I'm not giving up on us unless you tell me to." Victoria looks up at him, vulnerability raw in her eyes. "I don't want you to go. I've never felt this, safe with anyone. This real." The turning point comes 2 nights later at Mateo's school holiday recital. The auditorium is filled with proud parents in designer outfits, phones raised to capture every note. Mateo, dressed as a little shepherd in a nativity play, spots Jake in the audience, Jake, who showed up in his best clean shirt, holding a small bouquet of daisies because roses felt too fancy. When Mateo's big moment arrives, he forgets one line. The audience shifts awkwardly, but before the teacher can prompt him, Mateo looks straight at Jake and blurts into the microphone with pure 6-year-old sincerity, "That's okay, because my friend Jake says even the best engines need a little help sometimes." Laughter ripples warmly through the crowd, and Mateo beams, waving wildly at Jake. Victoria, seated beside him, reaches for Jake's hand under the program, squeezing it tightly. In that instant, with cameras flashing and whispers turning fond, she leans close and whispers, "I'm in love with you, Jake Harlan. Completely." Jake's heart pounds as he whispers back, "And I love you, Victoria. Both of you." Unseen in the back row, Reginald Whitmore stands in the shadows, having come to ensure distance was kept. He watches his grandson light up the stage because of this man's quiet influence. He sees his daughter's face, radiant in a way it hasn't been since before her husband's death. For the first time, a flicker of doubt softens the steel in Reginald's eyes. A crisp winter morning dawns over the city, the air sharp with promise. Jake is in the garage early, sleeves rolled up, working on a donated van for the local children's hospital shuttle service. He's lost in the rhythm of the work when the familiar crunch of tires on gravel draws his attention. A town car pulls up. This time, the door opens to reveal Reginald Whitmore stepping out alone, no driver, no entourage. Jake straightens, wiping his hands slowly, unsure what to expect. Reginald approaches, his posture less rigid than before, the lines around his eyes softer in the morning light. "Morning," Reginald says simply, glancing around the tidy shop with new appreciation. "Mind if we talk?" Jake nods toward a couple of folding chairs near the workbench. "Coffee's fresh." "Black okay." Reginald accepts the chipped mug with a faint nod of thanks. For a moment, they sit in companionable silence, the only sound the distant hum of traffic. "I was wrong about you," Reginald begins at last, his voice low but steady. "I've spent a lifetime protecting my family by building walls, money, influence, distance from anything that might hurt them. After losing my son-in-law, I doubled down. Thought I could shield Victoria and Matteo from more pain by controlling who gets close." He pauses, staring into the dark liquid in his cup. "But watching my grandson light up on that stage because of something you taught him, seeing my daughter smile like she used to when she was a little girl with dreams bigger than boardrooms. I realized I wasn't protecting them. I was keeping them from living." Jake listens without interrupting, giving the older man space. Reginald meets his eyes directly. "You're a good man, Jake Harlan. Better than most I've met in penthouses and private jets. I judged you by what you don't have instead of what you do, integrity, kindness, and a heart my grandson already trusts completely." He reaches into his coat and pulls out a folded set of blueprints and a letterhead from Whitmore Enterprises. "I'm launching a new foundation, Whitmore Hands-On Initiatives. Vocational training centers across the city for kids who might not go to college but have talent with their hands. Mechanics, carpentry, plumbing, coding, whatever calls to them. I want someone real to lead the flagship program. Someone who knows engines and life the way you do. No figurehead position, this would be yours to build, with full funding and autonomy. Salary that reflects the value, but more importantly, purpose that matches your soul." Jake stares at the papers, stunned. "Mr. Whitmore. I don't know what to say." "Say you'll think about it," Reginald replies with a small, genuine smile. "And call me Reginald. We're past the intimidation phase." That same evening, Whitmore Enterprises hosts its annual holiday charity gala in the Grand Ballroom downtown, crystal chandeliers, live orchestra, gowns and tuxedos glittering under golden lights. This year, the event benefits children's education and vocational programs, a cause close to the new foundation's heart. Victoria stands near the entrance in an elegant emerald gown that matches her eyes, Matteo at her side in a tiny tuxedo, his hair neatly combed but his toy car still peeking from his pocket. She's nervous. Tonight she's bringing Jake as her guest, openly, for the first time. When Jake arrives, he steps through the doors in a perfectly tailored tuxedo, sent anonymously that morning with a note from Reginald. A man should feel confident when he's earning his place, not borrowing it. He looks handsome, slightly overwhelmed by the opulence, but his smile when he spots them is pure and steady. Matteo breaks away first, running full speed across the marble floor. "Jake," he shouts joyfully, crashing into Jake's legs for a hug. Cameras flash, whispers turn to warm murmurs as guests watch the little boy drag Jake toward Victoria. Victoria takes Jake's hand, lacing their fingers together in front of everyone. "You came," she whispers, eyes shining. "Wouldn't miss it," he answers softly. "Especially not with my two favorite people waiting." Reginald approaches then, clapping Jake lightly on the shoulder in full view of the room. He raises a glass to the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announces, voice carrying effortlessly, "tonight we celebrate not just generosity, but possibility. And I'd like to introduce the man who will lead our new hands-on initiatives, someone whose skill, character, and heart have already changed my family for the better. Jake Harlan." Applause swells, genuine, heartfelt, as Jake stands tall between Victoria and Mateo, the little boy slipping his small hand into Jake's free one. In that moment, under the chandeliers, they look every bit the family they are becoming, three hearts aligned, no longer divided by class or circumstance. Later, as the orchestra plays a gentle waltz, Mateo tugs at both of them. "Can we dance? All three of us?" Jake laughs, lifting Mateo onto his hip while keeping Victoria close. Together they sway in a slow, imperfect circle, Victoria's head on Jake's shoulder, Mateo giggling between them, surrounded by smiles and soft music. The class barrier doesn't shatter dramatically, it simply dissolves, one kind act, one honest word, one shared dance at a time. 2 years later, on a golden summer evening, the sun dips low over a quiet suburban park just outside the city. Jake, Victoria, and Mateo stroll along a winding path, hand in hand in hand. Mateo, now 8 and a little taller, swings between them, laughing as they lift him off the ground with every few steps. They've traded the penthouse and the cramped apartment above the garage for a cozy house with a big backyard, close enough to the city for Victoria's work, far enough for quiet weekends filled with the things that matter most. Harlan's Repairs still stands proudly in the industrial district, but Jake spends most of his days overseeing the thriving hands-on initiative centers, where hundreds of kids now learn to build, fix, and dream with their own hands. Tonight, though, work is far from anyone's mind. They spread a red checkered blanket under an old oak tree and unpack a simple picnic dinner, pepperoni pizza from their favorite neighborhood spot, still steaming in the box, lemonade in mason jars, and chocolate chip cookies Mateo helped bake that afternoon. Mateo flops onto the blanket, grabbing a slice with both hands. "Best dinner ever," he declares through a mouthful, sauce smudging his grin. Victoria laughs, brushing a crumb from his cheek. "You say that every Friday pizza night." "Because it's true every time," he insists, then looks at Jake with that same wide-eyed admiration he's never lost. Especially when Jake makes the cookies chewy in the middle. Jake ruffles the boy's hair, his blue eyes soft as he watches the two people who have become his whole world. Victoria leans against his shoulder, her auburn hair catching the last rays of sunlight. She's still the brilliant CEO, still commanding boardrooms with grace and fire, but here, in this moment, she's simply Victoria, the woman who chooses love over loneliness every single day. Mateo finishes his slice and crawls into Jake's lap, holding up his newest toy car, one they built together at the center. "Tell the story again," he pleads. "About how you and Mommy met." Jake smiles, glancing at Victoria, who nods with an affectionate roll of her eyes. She's heard it 100 times, but never tires of it. "Well," Jake begins, voice warm and steady, "it all started with the worst blind date in history. I got stood up in the fanciest restaurant in town, feeling pretty low. Then this brave little explorer wandered over with a broken toy car and asked a greasy mechanic for help." Mateo giggles. "That was me. I was the explorer. You were, Jake agrees. And you looked right at your mom and said the words that changed everything. I like him, Mommy. He's nice. Victoria reaches over, lacing her fingers through Jake's. And I'm so glad you did, sweetheart, she says softly to Mateo. Because that one honest sentence brought us the best man we could ever ask for. Mateo beams, then grows thoughtful. So kindness won, right? Like you always say. Jake nods. Kindness always wins in the end, buddy. It just sometimes takes the long way around. They sit in comfortable silence as fireflies begin to blink in the growing dusk. Victoria rests her head on Jake's other shoulder, and he presses a gentle kiss to her temple. Mateo snuggles closer, content between the two people who love him most in the world. In this ordinary, perfect moment, pizza crusts scattered on paper plates, laughter echoing under the stars, 3 hearts beat as one. No chandeliers, no headlines, no fortunes on display. Just love, chosen daily, built on the strongest foundation there is, genuine character, quiet strength, and the courage to believe someone when they say, I see you. Love doesn't measure bank accounts or pedigrees. It looks for open hands, steady hearts, and the willingness to show up, even when the world says you don't belong. Jake and Victoria's story reminds us that second chances often arrive disguised as broken things, a toy car, a stalled engine, a humiliating night. But when kindness answers, everything can be made new. Good people deserve good things, not because they chase them, but because they become the kind of people who make the world better simply by being in it. And sometimes, the greatest romances begin with a child's innocent voice cutting through the noise to speak the simplest truth, I like him. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button, subscribe for more soul-stirring tales of unexpected love, and let us know in the comments, have you ever experienced a moment when kindness changed everything for you? We read every single one. Thank you for spending this time with us. Until the next story, believe in the beauty of second chances.